everyone, it's Miss Phelps. I've been getting some complaints about sound, so I'm going to try out my headphones and see if these work better. Also going to try and hold the camera differently so we can get a better sound quality. I have to show you Petunia real quick because she's really getting in the spirit of Mr. Popper's Penguins. So it is day 3, and I'm really missing all of you, so at the end, when Mrs. Taglar posts this on Facebook, I am going to leave my school email and my school Facebook page in the comments, so I would love to hear from you. If your adult lets you, please send me an email or a message. I'd love to hear what you've been doing, any stories you've written, just anything. Just really missing all of you guys and hope that you are well. So let's jump into Chapter 3, and we will find out what Admiral Drake's surprise was to Mr. Popper. Let me get the... Alright. Out of the Antarctic. With what the excitement of having the great Admiral Drake speak to him over the radio and his curiosity over the Admiral's message to him, Mr. Popper did not sleep very well that night. He did not see how he could possibly wait to find out what the Admiral meant. When morning came, he was almost sorry that he had nowhere to go. No houses to paint, no rooms to paper. It would have helped to pass the time. "Would you like the living room papered over?" he asked Mrs. Popper. "I have quite a lot of paper number 88 left over from the mayor's house." "I would not," said Mrs. Popper firmly. "The paper I now is plenty good enough. I am going to the first meeting of the Ladies' Aid and Missionary Society today, and I don't want any mess around to clean up when I get home." "Very well, my love," said Mr. Popper meekly, and he settled down with his pipe, his globe, and his book of the Antarctic adventures. But somehow, as he read today, he could not keep his mind on the printed words. His thoughts kept straying away to Admiral Drake. What could he have meant by a surprise from Mr. Popper? Fortunately, for his peace of mind did not have very long to wait. That afternoon, while Mrs. Popper was still away at the meeting and Bill and Janie had not come home from school, there was a loud ring on the front door. "I suppose it's just the postman. I won't bother to answer it," he said to himself. The bell rang again, a little louder this time. Grumbling to himself, Mr. Popper went to the door. It was not the postman who stood there. It was an expressman with the largest box Mr. Popper had ever seen. "Party by the name of Popper live here?" "That's me." "Well, here's a package that came Air Express all the way from Antarctica. Some journey, I'll say." Mr. Popper signed the receipt and examined the box. It was covered all over with markings. "Unpack at once," said one. "Keep cool," said another. He noticed that the box was punched here and there with air holes. You can imagine that once he had the box inside the house, Mr. Popper lost no time in getting the screwdriver. For by this time, of course, he had guessed that it was the surprise from Admiral Drake. He had succeeded in removing the outer boards and part of the packaging, which was a layer of dry ice, when from the depths of the packing case he suddenly heard a faint "ork." His heart stood still. Surely he had heard that sound before at the Drake Expedition movies. His hands were trembling, so that he could scarcely lift off the last of the wrappings. There was not the slightest doubt about it. It was a penguin. Mr. Popper was speechless with delight, but the penguin was not speechless. "Ork!" it said again, and this time it held out its flippers and jumped over the packaging debris. It was a stout little fellow, with about 2.5 feet high. Although it was about the size of a small child, it looked much more like a little gentleman, with its smooth white waistcoat in front and its long black tailcoat dragging a little behind. Its eyes were set in 2 white circles in its black head. It turned its head from side to side to the other. At first with one eye, then the other, it examined Mr. Popper. So I know that I said that there was no pictures because it was a chapter book, but there are a couple pictures scattered here and there. So I want to show you this one. penguin jumping out of the packaging. Mr. Popper had read that penguins are extremely curious and soon found that this was true, for stepping out, the visitor began to inspect the house. Down the hall it went and into the bedrooms, with its strange, pompous little strut. When it, or he, Mr. Popper had already begun to think of it as he, got to the bathroom, it looked around with a pleased expression on its face. Perhaps, thought Mr. Popper, all that white tiling reminds him of the ice and snow of the South Pole. Poor little thing, maybe he's thirsty. Carefully, Mr. Popper began to fill the bathtub with cold water. This was a little difficult because the inquisitive bird kept reaching over and trying to bite the faucets with a sharp red beak. Finally, however, he succeeded in getting the tub all filled. Since the penguin kept looking over, Mr. Popper picked it up and dropped it in. The penguin seemed not to mind. "Anyway, you're not shy," said Mr. Popper. "I guess you have got used to playing with those explorers at the pole." When he thought the penguin had had enough of a bath, he drew out the stopper. He was just wondering what to do next when Janie and Bill burst in from school. "Papa," they shouted together at the bathroom door, "what is it?" "It's a South Pole penguin sent to me by Admiral Drake." "Look," said Bill, "it's marching." The delighted penguin was indeed marching. With little pleased nods of his handsome black head, he was parading up and down the inside of the bathtub. Sometimes he seemed to be counting the steps it took. 6 steps for the length, 2 steps for the width, 6 steps for the length, and 2 steps for the width. "For such a big bird, he takes awfully little steps," said Bill. "And look how his little black coat drags behind. It almost looks as if it's too big for him," said Janie. But the penguin was tired of marching. This time, when it got to the end of the tub, it decided to jump up the slippery curb. Then it turned, with its outstretched flippers, toboggan down on its white stomach. They could see that those flippers, which were black on the outside, looked like sleeves of a tailcoat, with white underneath. "Gook, gook," said the penguin, trying its new game again and again. "What's his name, Papa?" asked Janie. "Gook, gook," said the penguin, sliding down once more on its glossy white stomach. "It sounds something like Cook," said Mr. Popper. "Why, that's it, of course. We'll call him Cook. Captain Cook." So that was Chapter 3 in The Surprise from Admiral Drake. Parents, if you're looking for an activity for the kids, have them write a story about Captain Cook coming to visit your house during this time, or draw a picture of what they think Captain Cook would look like, or anything. I will be looking forward to getting some emails and messages, and hope that everybody is doing well. I love and miss you, and hope that I will see you soon. Have a good day. Bye.